US CPI data is out. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. Basically, it represents inflation. And by all accounts right now, the US economy has beaten expectations, which is good. All main inflation measures were down, somewhat surprisingly, actually, and people are feeling bullish once again as interest rate yields dropped and markets rose as a result of that news. And the next step here, as far as what we can anticipate, is the U.S. Federal Reserve's FOMC meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. So tomorrow and on Wednesday. The Fed was hinting at a rate cut before this, but rates are down a little just naturally on, like I said, the CPI news. And at least historically speaking, we have seen this pattern whereby we've had multiple instances of crypto booms following these kinds of rate cuts. And like I said, these rate cuts aren't guaranteed, but if they do come to pass, then there are specifically certain altcoins that we feel are going to benefit more than others. So I'm going to go over 4 picks in this video, 4 projects in particular that I feel are going to benefit most and thus boost your portfolio most following the next FOMC meeting, which who knows, could actually be a bullish turning point for the entire market. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie and this is Altcoin Buzz. All the best of luck if you choose to invest, whether it's these projects or otherwise. I wish you well, genuinely. Just remember that I'm not a financial or investment advisor, and that means by extension, this video is not official financial or investment advice. So the FOMC meeting, it's this week, like I said, on June 17th and 18th. That's Tuesday, tomorrow, and Wednesday. FOMC stands for the Federal Open Market Committee, or the fancy name for the group that basically sets U.S. interest rate policy within the Federal Reserve. And all types of numbers are floating around, but the most important two that I want to highlight here are the starting point. The prime rate is 7.5%. But the rate that everyone is talking about right now, really, for the most part, is the Fed funds rate. This is the rate that banks lend money to each other overnight with. So it's kind of like the liquidity policy rate in a sense. It is currently at 4.25 to 4.5%. And I say it's the rate that most people are talking about, most people are watching right now, and that's thanks to a few different variables. Trump's tariff policy effects, that's one set of variables. Also, the growth in bond market prices, those move inversely, by the way, to interest rates. And also where we are in the economic cycle, generally. Many believe right now that the Fed is going to cut rates this year. Not right now, however. Actually, there's a 0% chance right now, according to a recent poll. Just a few weeks ago, that number was 65% in terms of what people anticipated. So 65% believing that there was going to be a rate cut in June. So certainly things move very quickly. That's not new information. You knew that already. But basically, the market expects at least 1 to 2 rate cuts before the end of this year. That hasn't changed even with the good CPI report. And then after June, there's only 4 more meetings to make that a possibility. That doesn't mean that it has to be right now, all at once, and it probably likely won't be now, given that this CPI data is lower than expected. Again, that just means inflation is not as bad as people are thinking. Inflation is still rising, by the way. It's not that inflation is down, it's that the rate of inflation is not as high as people expected, but inflation still is rising, so it's a minor victory, maybe a silver lining, but just keep that nuance in mind. Nobody really talks about it. The more important point, however, is that it looks like rate cuts are coming at some point, and that's good. I'll explain more on that in just a minute. We are long-term investors, and chances are if you're watching this video, you are as well. So if you're a month early on the rate cuts instead of 2 days, the effect is pretty much the same. It is still bullish. Unfortunately, that CPI data has bought you a little bit more time to load up on some of your favorite projects. I'll explain why. To use one of crypto's favorite memes, a rate cut simply means that the money printers go burr. The mechanics here are basically a cut in interest rates means the FOMC is going to be adding liquidity or money to the market. And if you combine this with lower borrowing costs, especially for institutions and businesses, that just means that they're more likely to invest more in so-called risk assets. Those include stocks, but also real estate, buying new businesses, and of course, crypto. In the same way that we monitor how much stablecoin liquidity is in crypto, we monitor monetary policy in key countries around the world. When there's more money in the system that's chasing the same number of assets, there's really only one conclusion that's possible, and effectively its number goes up.
Do you even surge, bro?
We've got a new project that we're very excited about. I'm going to be giving you more information on that very soon, so stay tuned. By the way, here's a quick little pro tip for you. You should be monitoring stablecoin liquidity all over the system. And basic tools that are available to you like DeFi Llama, Artemis, and Dune. I shouldn't say basic, but they're readily available. These are things that you should avail yourself of, and they can help you track these metrics, which are very important. It's one of the best market indicators that we have. And according to Artemis, for example, they say that stablecoin supply is up 4% in just the last 30 days. 4% may not sound like a lot, but it's equivalent here to $10 billion. $10 billion of additional liquidity that was not there a month ago. Altcoins are up from April lows, but mostly non-trending. And people are getting antsy for when exactly alt season is finally going to start. But SUI really is one of the select few projects who are at the heart of the growth in the current cycle. It's quickly become one of the leading alts in this market and is up over 200% in the last 12 months. And there's a good reason for that. SUI is killing it in all the big sectors it supports. Sectors like DeFi, where SUI nearly crossed $2 billion in TVL and is almost at $1.5 billion in record time. SUI has some of the fastest stablecoin growth of any chain, so people are using it for real transactions. Walrus is changing the game in decentralized data storage. Its token launch, WAL, was a big hit, while Seal and Nautilus are making things more secure and more private. And SUI Play 0x1 is coming very soon in September and is now officially sold out with 10,000 pre-orders. SUI even has a small but growing meme coin market if you're a meme coin lover, if that's your jam. Look, if you haven't used SUI yet, you really ought to give it a try, and you should also be following SUI's X account for all the latest information and updates. Check out our link in the description of this video for more information. So this now leads us to the question of which coins specifically are going to benefit the most when this cut eventually happens. Now remember, could be this week. I'm saying probably not, but if not, then maybe a month from now, maybe 2 months from now, but it does feel like it's kind of imminent. To begin with, and at number one here, we have Bitcoin. It is the king for a reason. It benefits hugely from a rate cut as it's well established now as really its own asset class, undeniably. Bitcoin will go over $110,000 again. It'll probably hit a new all-time high and peak in this cycle on this next move that comes from more liquidity in the system. It continues to hold up better than most of the market, most of the altcoins out there actually, when conditions are uncertain. You can just think of Trump's tariff talks and policy. That's a good sign in terms of Bitcoin that it's going to bounce back faster when conditions do improve. Solana is up next, and if we study SOL SOL over the course of the last 3 months, it's kind of been in a moderately upward sideways trend from about $225 down to $150. And right now we're sitting at $155, just under $156, effectively up over 5% on the day. This represents a buying opportunity and a good entry here at this price. You cannot go around asking questions like, is Ethereum dead, as many have been doing, without at least thinking about where these users are going now. Yes, Ethereum has recovered lately, and it does look healthier. But that being said, Solana is crushing them in transactions and also in important metrics like daily active addresses. And that's important because the daily users are also the most committed users. Those no longer using ETH are not relocating to ETH L2s. They're mostly going to Solana. And that's because Solana is building with users and consumer-friendly protocols in mind. We talked about stablecoins a moment ago, and correspondingly here, Solana's stablecoin market cap alone is skyrocketing. It's doing very well, by the way, on earning fees too. And that's even while charging only pennies for gas. To put things in perspective, Solana is still earning over $1 million per day. And so as a project, Solana, beyond the meme coins, is making a lot of great moves right now before its next push upward. Again, this is a good entry point. Next up, we have the AI leader in TAO, T-A-O, Bittensor. They just added their 100th subnet, and each one is priced in TAO. So this means that many of them can fail, but if only a few succeed to go on and become really big, viable AI businesses, that means the price of TAO is going to go parabolic. And you can add to that its fixed 21 million supply is mirroring Bitcoin. Again, it's going to continue to push decentralized AI forward as AI as a market and multiple markets continue to grow. Last but not least here, I want to look at Polygon and POL, P-O-L, its token. It's actually fast becoming the home on EVM for stablecoin payments. And that really is very important, despite the fact that for the most part, people have been sleeping on this project lately. And look, fair enough. I think we can probably understand why. Its token performance has been pretty bad. Down 50% so far in 2025. And so a lot of people have perhaps underestimated this one. But Sandeep's return to Polygon to run the foundation alone is bullish. He, of course, was a key driver that got the project to where it is today. And now he's back, and honestly, they have a lot of great things going for them. The ag layer to Maiden, to huge stablecoin growth in the ecosystem, like I mentioned. It's probably only a matter of time before the price, again, starts to reflect the value here. And thanks to this good CPI data and the fact that this rate cut is a little bit more unlikely for this imminent FOMC meeting, we have more time to buy POL while it's still at this price. This is an absolute steal, more so than I would argue the others on this list.